My name is Delilah. I'm from Iowa. I usually just tell people I'm from all over the state because that's the truth. Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, places outside those cities too. Group homes, foster homes, juvenile placements, relatives for a minute, then gone again. I never really had one hometown that felt like mine. I was taken from my biological parents when I was still a baby, around 2 months old. From what I was told, my mom was using hard and mixed up with the wrong people, and my dad was in prison. So that pretty much decided my life before I was even old enough to know what was happening. I grew up being moved around so much that after a while you stop unpacking emotionally, you just learn to keep your shoes on. School never really had a chance with me. I made it into middle school, but that was about it. Once I hit that age, I went from being treated like a kid in the system to being treated like a problem. After that, it was probation, juvenile detention, placements I kept running from, and then the street. Once that became my normal, school just faded out. I started working the street when I was 13. I had run from a placement with another girl, and I thought we were just leaving together, like two girls trying to get out. What I didn't know was she already had somebody controlling her. She ended up going back. I didn't. I stayed with him, and that was the beginning of a whole different life. It was rough from the start. There was never anything romantic about it, not really. It was control, pressure, rules, fear, and trying to survive one day at a time. I've had several men controlling me over the years, more than I ever should have had. Every time I left, it was because it got to a point where I couldn't hold myself together anymore. People think leaving means you got free. That's not always what it means. Sometimes it just means you hit your limit with one person and end up in the hands of another one. The worst part about working for somebody is how upside down it is. You're the one out there taking all the risk, dealing with all the danger, doing things that break something in you little by little, and then at the end of it, most of the money is gone. You might get food, a room, a phone bill paid, some clothes, maybe your hair or nails done because that keeps the money coming in. But it all circles right back into the same life. It's not like you're building anything, you're just feeding the machine that's eating you. And yeah, there were quotas, always. That's what people don't get. It's not just standing around and seeing what happens. There's pressure on every hour. On slow nights, it gets bad because the number doesn't change just because the weather's bad or the streets are dead. I've had nights where the expectation was $1,500, $2,000, and that sounds like a lot until you realize how many men it takes to get there and what that does to your head. People on the outside judge girls in that life like it must mean they wanted it, or they're built for it, or they don't feel things the same way. That's the part that makes me angry. For a lot of girls, this isn't some wild choice they made because they thought it looked glamorous. It's survival mixed with trauma, mixed with being taught way too young that your body is the quickest thing you can trade. Or when you don't have education, stability, or anybody standing between you and the worst people alive. I've got 2 kids. That's the part that changes the way I look at everything. I had them young. And for a while, I kept telling myself I was going to do what I had to do, stack money, and get out for real. That's what a lot of girls tell themselves. Right now, family helps with them, and I'm grateful for that, because without that help, I don't even know what my life would look like. But being a mom and still being tied to that life, that messes with your head in a way I can't fully explain. You love your kids enough to want out, but sometimes you're so deep in it that love alone doesn't fix the trap. Working without somebody over you is dangerous too, just in a different way. Men smell vulnerability. Other people working the same streets notice a new face fast. And if you've got tattoos, especially face tattoos, people remember you even faster. Some of the ink on me came from years when men wanted their mark on me, that little cross on my cheek. That one means something else to me now, but not all of the ink came from a good place. Some of it came from living in a world where people think ownership looks like skin. Violence is real in that life. Anybody pretending it isn't either hasn't lived it or doesn't want to tell the truth. Some of those men use threats. Some use money. Some use jealousy. A lot of them use all of it. I've been hit over things I didn't even do. I've been punished because somebody messaged me, because somebody looked at me too long, because a man decided he was angry and I was there. When people talk about these guys like they're all smooth operators or businessmen, I just think you haven't seen what they do when nobody's watching. I will say this, there was one man in my life who started as somebody I trusted more than the others. And for a while I convinced myself that meant something different. He was an ex, and I got scared being out there alone because too many girls were getting hurt, disappearing, ending up dead, and I thought if somebody was nearby watching my back, maybe I'd make it home. He was probably the closest thing I had to protection in that world, but even that says a lot, doesn't it? My version of help still lived inside the same life that was chewing me up. Drugs are part of my story too. Meth, on and off for a few years. I'm not proud of that. It didn't start because I thought it looked fun. It started because I wanted to shut my brain off. It made it easier not to think, easier not to hesitate. Easier not to feel what I was doing while I was doing it. That's the ugly truth. It takes the fear down and the numbness up. Then later it takes pieces of you with it. And yeah, there's a part of me that got addicted to the life itself, not because I love it, but because it becomes the quickest answer when something goes wrong. If a kid needs something, if rent is due, if there's some emergency, you start thinking in survival math. What can I do in 1 hour? What can I do by tonight? That's how people get trapped. It isn't always chains and locks. Sometimes it's speed. Sometimes it's desperation. Sometimes it's knowing the street pays faster than anything else available to you. It's lonely too, real lonely. People assume being around men all the time means you can't possibly feel alone, but that's not how it works. Most of that attention isn't love, and a lot of it isn't even basic respect. Then, if you meet somebody decent and you tell the truth about your past, they start looking at you like your worst chapter is your whole identity. Like that's all you are. Like you can't be faithful, can't be soft, can't be real. After a while, you start expecting people to leave before they even do. When I was younger, the best example of love I had was my older brother. He was the one person who made me feel like I mattered without wanting something from me. He's gone now, and that still sits on me heavy. Outside of him, most of what I saw growing up was chaos. My mom would drift in and out, and every time I saw her, it was some new disaster, some new man, some new violence, some new mess. So yeah, I do think I repeated parts of her life without meaning to. Same addiction, same kind of men, same damage wearing a different outfit. This life does weird things to your self-esteem. Some days you feel like you can walk into anything and handle it. Like you've survived enough that nothing can break you. Other days you feel like you've been reduced down to what strangers think they can buy from you. So it builds you up and tears you down at the same time. That's probably the cleanest way I can put it. I've had some bad things happen out there, more than a few. One time I got into a truck, and halfway through I felt metal against my back. He had a gun on me. I tried to get out, but the doors were locked. He threatened to kill me if I kept fighting. He took what I had made that night, assaulted me, dumped me without my phone, and when I told the man I was with at the time, all he cared about was whether I was still going back out to work. That kind of thing changes you. It teaches you exactly how disposable you are to some people. Another time I got into a car with a man who spent the whole ride talking, then wanted his money back. I refused because that was always the rule. Once time is spent, that's on him. He got angry, drove past where I told him to drop me, started going faster, and I had this feeling that if I stayed in that car, I might not make it out, so I opened the door and jumped. I didn't even understand how hurt I was at first. Later, I found out I had burns and road damage across my body. A cracked head, stitches, staples, skin grafts. I had to relearn simple things. Walking right, writing right, stuff people take for granted. After something like that, people ask why you don't just leave for good, and for a little while I did step back. I was scared. But fear doesn't automatically come with a plan, and healing doesn't come with income. So once the panic fades and real life shows back up, a lot of girls end up going right back to the same danger they swore they were done with. That's why it's hard for outsiders to understand. They think one horrific thing should be enough to end it. Sometimes all it does is make you more numb. You learn to watch everything: the kind of car, tinted windows, temporary plates, how a man talks, how he keeps looking around, whether he seems too calm or too eager. The street sharpens your instincts, but it also makes you paranoid because sometimes the men who look the most normal are the ones planning the worst. Do I think I deserve better? Yeah, I do. I didn't always believe that, but I do now. No woman deserves to live like her life can end any random night. And that's just part of the job. No one deserves to be treated like pain is built into the price. I have been in love, real love, or as close as I've gotten to it. And that was hard in its own way because the guy was gentle, he was respectful. He said kind things to me. He cared about my kids. He wasn't trying to own me. And the messed up part is, I didn't know what to do with that. I was so used to chaos that healthy felt suspicious. I started turning into the kind of person the old life had turned me into. Defensive, mean, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when that relationship ended, a lot of that was on me. I don't really keep friends close. I say my kids are my friends, and I know that sounds sad, but it's also true in a way. This life makes trust expensive. Everybody wants something. Everybody has an angle. The street doesn't just age you, it hardens you. It teaches you to doubt first and relax later, if ever. What has this life taught me about men? That a lot of them live two lives. I've met men with wives, kids, jobs, church clothes, clean trucks, family photos, all of it. Then by night, they're out there doing things they'd never admit out loud. That's probably the biggest lesson. Not that men are all the same, because they're not. It's that people can hide a whole second self and get very good at it. And yeah, you get strange requests. Some men want things that barely even fit the stereotype people imagine. Some just want company, some want to talk, some want attention they can't ask for anywhere else. Then you've got the ones asking to go without protection, and that's a hard no for me. I'm already taking enough risk just being out there. I'm not bringing more of it home to my kids. If a young girl asked me whether she should get into this life, my answer would be no every time. It's not worth it. Not the money, not the attention, not the false sense of power, none of it. People think they can sample this life and step out whenever they want. A lot of them can't. It gets in your head, your habits, your body, your record, your reputation, your relationships. It spreads. My biggest regret is becoming a mother and then still ending up pulled back into the same life. That's the one that hurts me the most, because once kids are involved, it stops being just your own self-destruction. It touches innocent people who didn't choose any of it. The biggest lessons I've learned are to keep my guard up, not tell everybody everything, and never let somebody decide your worth for you. The second you hand somebody that kind of control, they'll use your wounds like tools. I learned that the hard way. I also learned that if you keep pretending to be somebody you're not, just to survive in some ugly world, eventually you can wake up and not recognize yourself. I remember a girl from detention who got released and was supposed to be getting a second chance. A man from her old life found her almost immediately and killed her. Stories like that stay with you. They make you understand why some girls are terrified to leave. People on the outside say, just walk away. They don't understand what some men do when you try. I've got a younger relative who started drifting toward the same life, asking me questions, acting curious, talking reckless. That messes with me bad. Because there have been moments when I was so tired and so numb I almost stopped fighting her on it. Then I look at her face and she still has that innocence, that softness, and I think, no, not you too. You still have time to choose something else. Go to school. Get out of here. Don't copy me. Half the time I don't even want to be me. That's probably the saddest part. When somebody younger looks at you like you've got some kind of strength worth copying. And all you can think is, if you really knew what this cost me, you'd run the other direction. So that's where I'm at. I'm still here. I'm still trying to get out for real, not just say it. I know this life is hard. I know it changes people. But I also know not everybody is gone forever just because they got lost in it. Sometimes all somebody needs is one real chance and one person who means it when they say, you can still leave.